Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. US and Russia hold peace talks in Abu Dhabi as missiles compound Kyiv. US Army Secretary Dan Driscoll has held unannounced talks with Russian officials in Abu Dhabi as part of an intense new push by President Donald Trump's administration to end the war in Ukraine. British leader Keir Starmer warned there was a tough road ahead to secure lasting peace in Ukraine in comments made Tuesday before a call of the so-called Coalition of the Willing. China's foreign ministry says the United States initiated the call between President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The atmosphere of the call was positive, friendly, and constructive, ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said. The Trump administration official designated the Venezuelan group Cartel de los Soles as a terrorist organization on Monday, even though questions remain about whether the group truly exists. Taliban vows necessary response after Pakistan airstrikes killed 10, mostly children. The escalation follows an attack on Monday in Pakistan's northwestern city of Peshawar. Pakistan security forces killed 22 terrorists in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Pakistan has witnessed an uptick in terror activities, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan after the TTP ended its ceasefire with the government in November 2022. India's Civil Aviation Ministry says it is closely monitoring volcanic ash plumes from the Ethiopian volcanic eruption. According to the IMD, ash clouds from the Ethiopian volcanic eruption cleared India's skies by this evening. Trump administration ends temporary protected status for Burmese migrants, deeming conditions in the country to have improved enough for citizens to return safely. And let's move on to the top focus story at this hour. Now, German Foreign Minister Johann Wedful has welcomed the latest U.S. diplomatic push to end the war in Ukraine. He has stated that Germany backs all ongoing international efforts aimed at bringing the conflict to a close. Let's in fact listen into what he had to say first.
Diplomatischen Bemühungen laufen weiterhin auf Hochtouren, um dem russischen Aggressionskrieg gegen die Ukraine ein Ende zu setzen. Wir begrüßen ausdrücklich das Engagement der amerikanischen Regierung. In Genf am Sonntag gab es einen konstruktiven Austausch zwischen Deutschland, Frankreich, Großbritannien, der Ukraine und den USA. Gestern habe ich die Kollegen im sogenannten Washington-Format eingeladen, also aus Frankreich, Polen, Italien, Finnland und dem Vereinigten Königreich, um die Situation gemeinsam mit unserem ukrainischen Kollegen Andriy Sybiha.
Moreover, Wedful has also noted that Russia continues to deploy new troops into active fighting, which he considers a significant tragedy for both the region and for Russia itself. Let's listen in.
Aus dieser Sehnsucht der Ukrainerinnen und Ukrainer und von uns allen in Europa nun tatsächlich Frieden entsteht, kommt es auf niemand anderen an als auf Putin. Er hat diesen Krieg begonnen, er muss ihn nun beenden. Wenn er Frieden will, dann muss er nun endlich Verhandlungsbereitschaft zeigen. Wir, die Ukraine, Europa und die USA sind bereit. Putin muss sich jetzt entscheiden.
The German Foreign Ministry has further added that if Russia is ready to engage Ukraine on equal terms in the peace plan, Germany would be prepared to participate in talks at any time. This comes as reports indicate that Ukraine supports the essence of the revised peace agreement, which came as a result of intense negotiations between US and Ukrainian officials in Geneva. However, according to Ukrainian officials, the most sensitive elements of the agreement will need direct discussions between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. These developments closely follow an unannounced meeting in Abu Dhabi, which was held between Ukraine's head of military intelligence, Major General Kirillovo Budanov, and US Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll. And we now have John Rossomando, who is president of the Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. in the United States. Thank you very much, Mr. Rossomando, for joining us and giving us your time here at NewsX World. Now, it's very interesting how discussions are being held on the war. On one hand, we have U.S. and Ukraine officials holding talks in Geneva, and on the other, we have U.S. and Russian officials holding talks in Abu Dhabi. Now, Ukraine seems to have accepted what is said was the essence of the peace plan. Is it very long now that an agreement could be arrived upon?
Well, I think that they have to work out the details. There's something that's acceptable to both sides. I think that it's promising now that the Ukrainians are waking up to reality that this war is not winnable for them, and that they're going to have to reach some sort of settlement. Hopefully, the Russians will accept something that will defend Ukraine and to prevent future incursions.
All right, and now, even as Germany has welcomed U.S. efforts, UK continues to say that there seems to be a tough road ahead. How are other countries in Europe seeing this peace plan?
Well, I think that other countries in Europe are seeing this peace plan with a bit of trepidation, because if the leaked plan that came out last week, the Ukrainians are going to have to accept the reduction of their armed forces. They're going to have to accept a lot of humiliating terms. And right now you have the Germans talking about increasing their armed forces and reintroducing the draft, the polls. I think you're going to see a shift toward Europe becoming more of an armed camp.
All right. Well, I request you to hold on as we have now some more information to give our viewers. Let's tell you, viewers, that after DNA tests have been confirmed the identities, families of 3 fallen Ukrainian soldiers have finally been able to lay their loved ones to rest. The 3 servicemen were members of the Territorial Defense Forces, were killed back in 2022 in the Kyiv region during the early phases of Russia's invasion. A funeral has now been held where relatives, friends, and community members gathered to honor their service. The ceremony brought together those who had waited more than 2 years for confirmation, and many shared deeply emotional tributes as they paid their final respects. Let's listen in.
У вогоні, у воду і під кулі, якщо потрібно. Це така людина була. Вони герої. Я про таких тільки пісню чув, де вірші читав, а вони діло робили. А Росії вірити не можна. І треба огородити все колючою проволокою і просто їх не підпускати до нас.
Які можуть бути обіцянки чи плани, що людей просто катували, і навіть після цього їх розстріляли і спалили.
All right, viewers, and we have some more breaking news coming in. The White House has stated that the remaining obstacles in negotiations to end Russia's war against Ukraine are not insurmountable, but will require additional talks. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emphasized that the U.S. has made significant progress toward a peace deal, but some delicate details still need to be resolved. These issues will require further discussions between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, according to Leavitt's comments on social media platform X, formerly Twitter. Let's bring back Mr. Rossomando into the discussion. John, now the U.S. has said that there is significant progress, but for Ukraine, there's still some sticking points that remain. Do we see the United States addressing those concerns for Ukraine?
Well, I think that number one for the Ukrainians is security. I mean, they've already seen Russia renege on several agreements in the past, whether we're talking about Minsk agreements, whether we're talking about even the 1994 Budapest memorandum. I mean, if the Ukrainians are forced to reduce their armed forces, barred from having long-range weapons to strike at Russia, and you're not going to have foreign troops guaranteeing the peace, I think there's going to be more needed from the United States in terms of guarantees.
All right, I thank you now, Rosamando John, joining us from the United States and sharing that information with us. With that, viewers, let's move on to the other top focus story here on World Report. Now, we have news coming in that at least 9 children and a woman were killed after Pakistani forces reportedly bombed a house in Khost province in Afghanistan. This is what the Taliban has said. The attack destroyed the home of Waliyat Khan in Gurbuz district, while other strikes in Kunar and Paktika provinces wounded 4 civilians. Pakistan's military denied targeting civilians, calling these claims false. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid warned Afghanistan would respond appropriately and condemned the strikes as a violation of its airspace. The incident comes amid a fragile ceasefire and stalled peaceful talks following deadly border clashes in October. It follows a TTP-claimed suicide attack in Peshawar, with Pakistan accusing the Taliban of sheltering militants, a charge that Afghanistan denies. And Mark Sutherland, who's a geopolitical expert, joins us live on NewsX World. He's joining us live from London. I extend you a very warm welcome, Mark, and thank you for joining us here at NewsX World. Now, Taliban has vowed that it is going to respond to the Pakistani strikes and at the right time. What is this right time that you think Taliban is referring to?
Good to be with you. There is so much we can talk about because of the history between Afghanistan and Pakistan, as you are fully aware. When Pakistan was created in 1947, there has always been this debate in regard to the border that Afghanistan has always had. And then, according to the Pakistanis, they have not been happy for many years when Afghanistan has then pushed to get this whole Pushtanistan the part of Pakistan into their own nation. So we could say that this tit for tat has gone on for many years since 1947, and of course since the Taliban resurgence in 2021. The Pakistani government have not been happy about that whatsoever. Now, it would be wonderful for you and I to have a long chat about this history. There was a very good article many years ago, written in 2012 by under the guise of the Yale International Affairs, which is that magazine and reference then, because it really does lay out the history and also lays out where we are now. And you are fully aware of when the Americans withdrew in 2021, and the how they actually did that is another subject for another day, and where all those armaments were then left behind and where they've ended up, which is also of a deep concern, which is millions, if not billions and billions of dollars of military hardware that is left within Afghanistan. To you.
All right, Mark, do you also see Taliban reaching out to other regional powers, particularly India, given that Pakistan is a common enemy?
I don't want to see that happen, but that may in fact happen. Like in all these discussions, when we are looking at events unfolding, history, we have to go back many, many years, looking at, say, like for argument in 1960, and the bombing and the military interaction that happened and then was dealt with very quickly, I believe, by Pakistan. This is constantly ongoing, and then if it's also their interpretation, if you throw in that of Islam, plus you then throw the fact that there is a border dispute, then you then go, well, who is arming what terrorist to then bomb an embassy? I think the American embassy in Kabul, etc. It's complex on one level, but it needs far more than a 3 minute discussion. But you are absolutely right. This could happen as a way to then settle scores that people wish to settle, and unfortunately, it then perpetuates those scores that could be ongoing. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us here on NewsX World and sharing your opinion with us, because that's the latest on the confrontation between Taliban and Pakistan. With that, let's shift our focus to news from Nigeria, where a series of kidnapping is continuing. Now, in the latest kidnappings that rocked Nigeria, gunmen have seized 10 women and children from a village in western Kwara state. The raid comes 1 week after gunmen killed 2 people and kidnapped 35 worshippers in an attack on a church in the village of Iruku. The state police commissioner has said that the attackers were herders who had shot sporadically during the night raid on the village of Isapa. Last week, armed gangs also seized more than 300 children from a Catholic school in Nigeria's north central Niger state and 25 schoolgirls from another school. Nigeria is facing a long-running security crisis fueled by jihadist attacks and violence by bandit gangs that raid villages, kill people, and kidnap for ransom. US President Donald Trump earlier this month threatened military action over what he described as the mass slaughter of Nigeria's Christians, a claim that the Nigerian government, however, rejects. We have Ayananga Olagbenga Paul, who is a public affairs analyst, joining us live from Lagos. Extend you a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us, Mr. Paul. Now, the series of kidnappings and abductions of children is continuing in Nigeria. What's the ammo that these groups are getting for continuing these kidnappings?
Well, I think that, in your report, you were saying that this kidnapping is fueled by jihadist activities. But if I want to frame it as somebody on the ground, I'll say this kidnapping and insurgency challenge that we have in the country is actually not fueled by the jihadist tendencies, but by the insincerity of government to allow citizens to be able to protect themselves. Because the so-called jihadists are like bullies. Bullies, like electricity, follow the least path of resistance. So bullies only attack people who will not be able to attack back. But if the government had been sincere all along and have allowed citizens to have freer access to instruments that they need to protect themselves, guns and other whatever it is that citizens need to protect themselves legally through legal source, I believe that this insecurity, insurgency would have died a long, long time ago. But when government continues to make the people sit indoors, the insurgents continue to grow stronger and more emboldened, because every time they kidnap and government negotiates with them or individuals negotiate with them and pay them ransom money, they use the same ransom money to buy weapons from the black market to rearm and get better at what they do. But in a case where the people are allowed, I mean, as a citizen from the southern part of Nigeria, for example, if the police sees me with a jackknife, ordinary jackknife, I will be arrested, I will be extorted, a lot of things would happen. But the same cannot be said for a tribe like the Fulani tribe, where the people from that tribe carry knives openly, carry cutlass openly, and nobody is stopping them, nobody is asking questions. Even if you point it out to the police, they will dismiss and they do a see no evil, say no evil attitude towards it. So it's the insincerity of the government. But also, let me quickly add that the current speed of announcements and breaking news concerning some of these insurgency, because when I checked for this current breaking news that happened about an hour to 2 hours ago now, I've seen that it's basically international news channels that have carried this particular news topic that we are talking about. And I want to be careful because I was trying to look for local news in Nigeria here who have carried the same headlines but could not see before coming on air. And that also gives me a goosebump because I, on one hand, know that, yes, active terrorism, active kidnapping, active genocide is going on in the country.
Mr. Paul, I just want to ask you for our viewers, why do you think the government is being lax in addressing and preventing these kidnappings from happening? Because in just this week, we've seen this the third one that's happening, and clearly there's no stopping.
Well, because over time, the government of Nigeria has been divided into North and South. And over a long period of time, those in the North who have been at the helms of affairs of the country are usually Fulani, and they protect their people with all the federal might. And that is seen in the attitude and body language of our immediate past president, the late President Muhammadu Buhari. That is seen in the body language of many past presidents, especially during the military era. And that has emboldened this Fulani tribe to feel superior to everybody else. Meanwhile, from the southern part of the country, because the southern politicians believe that the most important vote they need to win an election or a re-election is the block vote of the North. So rather than face the issue headlong and speak truth or make sure that those found culpable are brought to book, because of political consideration by southern office holders, they are also very careful to, act immediately. That is what I see happening on this matter. But of course, you can also not blame the southern office holder, because if they want to act, they need the army, they need the police, and who has the largest.
All right, we seem to have encountered an audio issue with our guest, Mr. Paul, who was giving us a fresh perspective there. But viewers, let's tell you that the Nigerian police in the latest says that 10 people have been kidnapped in country's west. And let's now move on. The US government is now expecting to announce negotiated prices this week for 15 high-cost prescription drugs under Medicare, marking a significant step in the Trump administration's push to lower healthcare costs. This comes after a recent agreement to cut the cost of Novo Nordisk's popular weight loss and diabetes drugs, Wegovy and Ozempic, to $245 a month. This price drop follows recent trends aimed at reducing Medicare spending, although experts believe it is unlikely to fall much further under the new negotiations. Other drugs under negotiation include GSK's asthma inhaler, Trilogy, Eplipta, and AbbVie's irritable bowel syndrome medication, Linzess. The new prices will take effect in 2027. Under the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act, Medicare has already negotiated lower prices for other drugs, saving an average of 22% compared to previous net prices. The upcoming negotiations could continue to influence pricing practices across the healthcare sector, with some experts suggesting these new benchmarks may prompt other buyers to push for similar reductions. Let's move on and tell you that French authorities have arrested 4 more people in connection with last month's €88 million crown jewel heist at the Louvre. Prosecutors say the suspects were 2 men and 2 women from the Paris region, include the last alleged member of the 4-man gang who carried out the break-in. Police believe the thieves used a stolen truck, an extendable ladder and a freight lift to reach a first-floor window of the Apollo Gallery in the 19 October robbery. In under 7 minutes, 2 men smashed an unsecured window and glass cases, then fled on motorbikes driven by 2 accomplices. The gang escaped with 8 historic jewels, including pieces linked to Napoleon Bonaparte and Napoleon III. None of the items have been recovered. France's state auditor has called the heist a deafening wake-up call, criticizing serious security failures at the Louvre, most of which the museum has now acknowledged. And that's all we have time for, but do keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from across the world.